Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to explore a heartfelt story about Tu Na, a woman returning to the countryside with her son Henry to start over after a painful past. Along the way, she meets Alex, a wealthy man whose kindness slowly transforms her life, though doubts and fears still stand between them. Will trust and love win, or will the past hold them back forever? If you enjoy this kind of emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Tu Na stood at the edge of a wide, open field. Her eyes lingered on the small house in the distance, its outline soft beneath the gentle glow of the morning sun. The light touched her face with warmth, almost as if nature itself was blessing this fragile new beginning. After years of hardship, loss, loneliness, and endless nights of uncertainty, she was here, standing at the threshold of a new chapter. It wasn't free of challenges, but for the first time in a long while, she felt the faint spark of hope. Her gaze shifted toward Henry, her little boy, who was still sleeping peacefully in his crib. She leaned closer, whispering softly, almost like a promise only the two of them would ever hear. "You'll have a better future, Henry, I swear." Motherhood had carved resilience into her soul. Every scar she carried reminded her of how much she had endured. But Henry's presence gave those scars purpose. With him, she wasn't just surviving anymore. She had a reason to keep moving forward. "There's nothing too hard for us to overcome," she thought, as she brushed a strand of hair from her face. The road ahead was uncertain. Shadows of the past still whispered at her heels. But as long as Henry was with her, there was meaning in every step. And yet, beneath her determination, unease stirred. The ground felt shaky, as if life might pull the rug out from under her at any moment. She wasn't truly alone anymore, but fear, doubt, and memories she couldn't erase still haunted her heart. Across town, Alex stood on the balcony of his lavish villa. The golden light of dawn reflected across the glass panes, catching on his thoughtful expression. He had made a decision today, one that wasn't born of obligation, but of something far deeper. Tu Na had never asked for anything, not once. Yet the image of her, fighting through hardship, carrying her child with strength despite her weariness, lingered in his mind. He felt an undeniable need to do something more for her. He had decided to build her a new home, not just walls and a roof, but a place of safety, a foundation where Henry could grow up free from the weight of fear, and where Tu Na could finally breathe without feeling the world was against her. When Alex visited the farm, he immediately noticed subtle shifts in her demeanor. Gratitude was there in her eyes, but also hesitation, like a shield she couldn't lower. "Thank you," she told him softly, her voice both warm and wary. "But I don't want to be a burden." Her words carried both appreciation and fear, as if kindness always came with hidden strings. Alex didn't argue. Instead, his gestures spoke louder. The house being built, the thoughtful gifts, the quiet moments where he simply showed up. All of it was his way of saying, "You don't have to face this alone." Tu Na, however, struggled. Though she valued his efforts deeply, something inside her resisted. Trust did not come easily. She had been hurt before, and her heart still carried the echoes of betrayal. One quiet afternoon, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft golds and oranges, Alex and Tu Na found themselves seated together on the porch of her half-finished home. The rustling leaves filled the silence around them, creating a moment that felt almost cinematic. Alex couldn't take his eyes off her. The sunlight kissed her features, highlighting both her strength and her fragility. Her expression was calm, but her gaze drifted somewhere distant, lost in memories she hadn't yet shared. For Alex, the realization struck like a wave. His feelings weren't just gratitude for her resilience or admiration for her courage. It was something deeper, undeniable, and harder to conceal. Tu Na felt it too, the unspoken pull between them. But for her, emotions were a battlefield. She had survived by relying only on herself. Opening her heart again meant risking wounds she wasn't sure she could bear. A part of her longed for the warmth he offered, but another part pulled back in fear. Fear of depending on him. Fear of losing herself again. Fear of history repeating itself. The silence stretched, heavy with emotions neither dared to voice. Alex's eyes lingered, searching for courage in her guarded expression. He knew this wasn't just about building a house. It was about building trust. But someone else had noticed too. Alex's sister had been watching the quiet bond forming between them. At first, she told herself it was harmless. But as time passed, she couldn't deny the unease curling in her chest. She knew her brother well, knew the way he looked at Tu Na, the way his entire demeanor softened around her. This wasn't charity. This wasn't responsibility. This was affection, maybe even love. She couldn't ignore it. Protectiveness rose within her. Alex was more than just her brother. He was the pillar of their family. If he invested his heart in the wrong person, the consequences could ripple far beyond himself. So one afternoon, she decided to visit the farm. Tu Na greeted her politely, but the atmosphere was thick with caution. Alex's sister observed everything carefully, the subtle exchanges, the tension hidden beneath their words, the bond neither of them dared to acknowledge out loud. Her concern grew. Yes, she saw Alex's happiness, but she also saw the risks. Could Tu Na truly fit into their world? Or was she a fragile thread that might unravel everything they had built as a family? The questions gnawed at her. Was Alex's affection blinding him? Was Tu Na the right choice for him? Or simply a temporary escape from something else he was missing? The uncertainty weighed heavy. For the first time, Alex's sister found herself torn between wanting her brother's happiness and fearing the changes this new connection might bring. As the days passed, Alex and Tu Na's bond deepened quietly. The house neared completion, standing not just as a shelter, but as a symbol of something unspoken between them. For Tu Na, every gesture of kindness from Alex brought warmth to corners of her heart she thought had gone cold. Yet with each gift, each look, each visit, her hesitation grew. She wasn't sure if she could allow herself to fully accept it, or if she even deserved it. Then one evening, after a long day on the farm, Alex arrived with a simple basket of fruit. Nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. But for Tu Na, it meant more than she could admit. When their eyes met, something heavy lingered in the silence. His gaze softened, her chest tightened. The weight of everything unsaid hung between them. Alex stepped closer, his voice low and careful. "Are you all right?" The question wasn't about the day or her health. It was about her heart. Tu Na froze, words caught in her throat. Did she dare answer honestly? Did she dare let him see the vulnerability she had fought so hard to protect? the silence stretched, carrying both fear and longing. And somewhere in that fragile moment, both of them realized that their connection was no longer something they could ignore. As the construction of the new house drew to a close, Alex felt an unexpected swell of pride. To anyone else, it might have seemed like just bricks and wood, but to him, it was something far more personal. It was a promise, a tangible symbol of his hope for Tu Na and Henry's future. He imagined her stepping into those rooms for the first time, spaces filled with light, warmth, and safety, spaces where laughter could finally replace sorrow. He wanted her to feel, even if just for a moment, that the world wasn't always cruel. But deep down, Alex also knew he was building more than a house. He was building trust, brick by brick, gesture by gesture. When the house was finally complete, he invited Tu Na to see it. As she walked through the doorway, her steps slowed. Each room seemed to glow with possibility, every window opening to a view that whispered of freedom and peace. Tuna's breath caught in her chest. She had never dared to dream of something like this. Her hands brushed along the smooth walls, her eyes shimmering with both awe and confusion. Gratitude swelled within her, but so did fear. Why was Alex doing all of this? And more importantly, what did he expect in return? Turning to him, her voice trembled as she whispered, "It's beautiful. Thank you." Alex's smile was soft, but his eyes carried a flicker of vulnerability. He wanted her to see that this wasn't about obligation or debt or expectation. It was about care, about something deeper than words could express. Yet he could sense the wall she still held firmly in place. She was grateful, yes, but she was still hesitant, still guarding her heart, as though she feared the ground might collapse beneath her at any moment. He didn't push her. Instead, he simply stayed near, patient and steady. He knew trust couldn't be forced. It had to be built slowly, just like this home. The next morning, Alex visited again. This time, he carried nothing. No baskets, no gifts, no grand gestures. He only wanted to see her, to check on her and Henry. Tu Na was sitting quietly on the porch, her eyes distant as she watched her little boy playing in the yard. There was peace in her gaze, but also a shadow of sorrow, something unspoken lingering deep inside. Alex approached slowly and sat beside her. "Everything's coming together," he said softly. The rising sun stretched long shadows across the field. The air felt fragile, heavy with silence, as though the moment could break if either of them moved too quickly. Tu Na finally turned to him, her expression both conflicted and vulnerable. "I've been thinking," she began. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "About all of this. The house, everything you've done. I don't know if I can keep accepting your help. I don't know if I can give you what you expect in return." Alex's heart tightened, but he kept his voice calm, his tone reassuring. "Tu Na, I don't expect anything. I just want you and Henry to be safe, to be happy." Her eyes glistened with unspoken fears. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let herself trust, but her past whispered doubts into her ear, promises broken, kindness that had come with hidden costs, love that had left her scarred. She wasn't sure if she could ever be what Alex hoped for, or if she even deserved the peace he offered. Alex, sensing her turmoil, simply stayed by her side. He knew this wasn't a battle he could fight for her. It was something she had to choose, in her own time, in her own way. Later that day, Alex received a call from his sister. Her tone was laced with concern, the kind that came from love, but was sharpened by worry. "Alex," she said carefully, "do you really know what you're doing? Do you really know who she is? You've barely known her long. Are you sure this is real?" Her words echoed in his mind long after the call ended. But despite her doubts, Alex felt something unshakable in his chest. He didn't have all the answers, and he couldn't predict the future. But he knew one thing. He couldn't walk away from Tu Na. Not now. Not when her presence had already woven itself into the fabric of his life. The days rolled on, and the quiet bond between Alex and Tu Na continued to grow. Even if neither of them dared to fully name it, the little gestures, a shared glance, a soft smile, the way he watched Henry as though the boy were already family, spoke louder than words. And yet, Tu Na's fears lingered. Every time her heart leaned toward him, her mind pulled back. She remembered the pain she had endured, the nights she had survived alone, the promises that had once turned to dust. Could she really trust someone again? Could she trust him? Alex, for his part, refused to rush her. He knew that love wasn't about grand confessions or dramatic gestures. It was about showing up again and again. It was about patience. One evening, as the house glowed under the soft light of lanterns, Alex found himself sitting once more beside Tu Na on the porch. Henry's laughter echoed in the background as he chased fireflies in the yard. Alex glanced at her, noticing the way her eyes softened as she watched her son. "He's happy here," Alex said gently. Tu Na nodded, her voice almost a whisper. "Yes, happier than I've seen him in a long time." The silence stretched again, but this time it felt different. Not heavy, but fragile. Like something new was taking shape between them. Alex's hand brushed against hers. Accidentally, perhaps, but neither of them pulled away immediately. The simple touch sent a shiver of realization through them both. For Tu Na, it was terrifying. But it was also the first time in years she felt her heart stir with something more than survival. Meanwhile, Alex's sister continued to wrestle with her doubts. She saw the way her brother had changed, softer, more open, more alive. But she couldn't silence the nagging fear that this path might end in heartbreak for both him and their family. And so, quietly, she began to watch more closely, to study Tu Na from the shadows. Was she truly the woman her brother believed her to be? Or was she carrying secrets that would one day unravel everything? For Tu Na, life at the farm began to feel both comforting and overwhelming. The new house stood tall, a symbol of kindness she struggled to accept. Henry's laughter filled the air, reminding her daily of why she fought so hard to keep moving forward. And Alex, always Alex, was there, steady and patient, asking for nothing in return. Each day, she found herself pulled in two directions. Part of her longed to surrender to the warmth he offered, to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could build something new with him. The other part trembled in fear, convinced that opening her heart would only end in more pain. Tu Na, a woman scarred by hardship, returns to the countryside with her young son Henry in search of a fresh start. Her strength as a mother fuels her determination, but she is haunted by fears of the past and an unwillingness to depend on others. Alex, a wealthy man, sees her struggle and quietly steps in to help, building her a new home and offering kindness she has never known before. Though gratitude grows, Tu Na hesitates, torn between longing for the warmth he brings and fearing what it might mean to trust again. Their unspoken emotions create a fragile bond, while Alex's sister watches with concern, questioning whether Tu Na truly belongs in their world. As affection deepens, both Alex and Tu Na must confront doubt, fear, and hope, wondering if love can truly overcome the shadows of the past.